All of the Aborigines down there have drawings on the walls of caves depicting these things. They're prevalent in their storytelling traditions as well. But then the settlers came in the late 1700s, and they too started running into yowies, which is another very strong indicator that they're a real biological animal.
From a dead Bigfoot being discovered in the woods to a humanoid creature attacking a camper's tent, this is the new Bigfoot footage caught on camera, and it's not AI. Let's dive in. Paraglider footage. On September 2nd, 2025, a powered paraglider was flying above a remote frozen mountain. He often chose places like these because the views were beautiful and the flight itself demanded focus. But this time the calm routine did not last. As he crossed the crest of a high ridge, something moved below him, slow and deliberate, standing where nothing should have been standing at all. He noticed the shape from a distance and felt a sudden pull in his chest, then turned back toward it instead of flying away, driven by confusion and curiosity more than courage. He switched on his camera and flew directly over the figure and captured something that should not exist. Later on, when he slowed the footage down, the shape became clearer and far more disturbing. It was a dark, humanoid form walking along the ridge, its arms hanging too long at its sides, its body tall and heavy, moving forward on two legs with steady balance. The stride was calm and controlled, not rushed, not animal, and the proportions did not match anything known to live in those mountains. When the clip went viral, many viewers compared the figure to Bigfoot, but others felt the shape was wrong even for that, larger and more imposing, closer to old stories of giants. However, mainstream science has never accepted the idea of Bigfoot or undiscovered giant hominids, yet stories continue to surface from isolated places where people rarely go. Regardless, legends have spoken of tall beings hiding in deep mountain ranges, dense forests, and underground systems far from modern life. Additionally, old newspapers in the 80s once described massive skeletons uncovered in burial mounds, something that mainstream media later dismissed. Because of this, some believe creatures like Bigfoot and the Yeti are remnants of something ancient, oversized, and still watching from the edges of the world. Yet this was not the only incident. Bigfoot silhouette. In November 17, 2005, a hiker on Silver Star Mountain in southwest Washington took a series of photos that would later be known as the Silver Star Bigfoot photos. At first, the images did not spread across the internet or make headlines, and instead moved quietly between hikers and a small circle of researchers who studied strange sightings. Over time, the photos gained attention as one of the most unsettling Bigfoot silhouette cases ever taken in the mountains.
They were doing the same sort of things as the people of the Pacific Northwest described. The most reasonable explanation for these different people describing the same animals is that they were describing the same animals. Sasquatches have a continent-wide distribution.
The person behind the camera was not searching for anything strange that day and was only enjoying the cold air, the snow, and the wide mountain views. But as they were taking simple landscape photos of ridges and valleys, something far below caught their eye. A single dark figure was crossing an open stretch of snow, moving slowly through a place that felt empty and exposed. Because the mountain is remote and the snow was deep, the hiker took a few photos out of curiosity, assuming it was another person on a distant route. It was only later, after zooming in, that the figure began to feel wrong. The shape stood upright, thick and heavy, moving with long, steady strides that did not match a normal hiker. On top of that, the location made the sight even harder to explain. This is because there was no visible trail in the snow and no sign of gear, no backpack, no poles, and no protective clothing. Anyone out there should have been struggling, yet the figure appeared calm and unbothered by the terrain. When the photos went viral online, viewers saw the dark human-shaped silhouette with broad shoulders, the dense body, and an even stride that looked too deliberate. However, because of the distance, the figure lacked fine detail, but the outline itself unsettled people the most. And although the Silver Star Mountain photos have never been fully explained as they are not sharp enough to offer clear answers, they are too strange to ignore. Just like the next creepy footage, Bigfoot attacks couple. A couple was hiking deep in the woods one day when curiosity got the best of them. They wandered off the familiar path and kept moving farther into an area they had never explored before. By the time they stopped to rest, they were miles in, surrounded by thick vegetation and heavy silence. That was when something moved in the distance, not crashing or stumbling, but casually walking through the brush with ease. It was a massive dark shape pushing through branches as if they were soft, and its body was tall, wide, and unnaturally powerful. Seeing this, the couple froze where they stood and took out a camera, unsure if they should run or stay still. As they filmed, they watched the creature, barely breathing, trying to understand what they were seeing as it moved forward, muscles shifting under dark hair until it suddenly stopped. In that moment, it became clear that it had noticed them. A low, guttural growl broke the silence, deep and vibrating, carrying through the trees like a warning. Seconds later, the creature lunged forward, charging straight at them with terrifying speed. As a result, panic took over as the couple turned and ran, branches snapping behind them, as this was the only natural response to an unnatural creature not supposed to exist. Their camera nearly fell as they fled, capturing only chaos and heavy breathing before the video cut out. What happened after that moment has never been confirmed, making the footage one of the most chilling close encounters ever shared. While most people believe that Bigfoot chooses to remain elusive and avoid human contact at all cost, this video suggests something far more aggressive and intentional. Speaking of intention, the next footage might probably be the clearest ever taken. It's not a bear. It was July of 2023 when a man walking alone along a narrow forest path lifted his phone to record what he thought was a bear. The trail was boxed in by thick woods on both sides, the kind of place where anything could sit hidden just a few feet away. At first, the dark shape in the brush made sense, low to the ground and still, like an animal trying not to be noticed. As the filming continued, the shape stopped fitting that explanation. Its body looked wrong for a bear, too tall, too heavy in the shoulders, and built in a way that felt disturbingly human. It stayed crouched for a moment longer, as if listening, as if waiting. But then, it shifted. It rose up from the brush and stood fully upright, revealing a thick, powerful frame as it began walking away on two legs, moving with long, steady strides that no bear ever uses. There was no stumbling, no awkward balance, just controlled movement, calm and deliberate. It felt like the creature knew it had been spotted and decided it was time to leave. As it stepped deeper toward the trees, its arms swung naturally at its sides, wide and loose in a way that looked eerily familiar. When the footage was zoomed in, the guy noticed that the fur clung tightly to its body, stretching over muscle and bone instead of hanging loose like a costume. Additionally, the shoulders were broad, the chest thick, and the head rounded at the top, matching descriptions that are similar to Sasquatch reports that have existed for decades. While the man never set out to record anything strange that day, he got a quick reminder that nature is full of surprises, and these surprises keep getting creepier. Dead Bigfoot. For years, supporters of mainstream science and archaeology have believed that without a body or a fossil, Bigfoot legends mean nothing. That certainty cracked when a group of hikers filmed something lying still on a forest floor, something that did not fit into any known category of animals. The video spread fast, driven by a single disturbing claim that a Bigfoot body had finally been found.
Like 8, 9 feet? Well, huge.
In the footage, a massive human-shaped figure was stretched out among leaves and dirt, completely motionless, as if whatever life it once held was gone. At first glance, many dismissed it as an extremely well-made costume left in the woods. But the longer people studied it, the harder it became to explain. The hair did not look uniform or artificial as it does in many hoaxes. On top of that, some patches are lighter, others darker, with uneven lengths that change across the body. In several areas, the fur thins out, revealing skin beneath it, pale and textured in a way that looks disturbingly real. These are the kinds of details seen in wild animals, not something usually found in props or suits made by humans. And here is where it got interesting. The body itself looked heavy and dense, shaped by muscle and bone, rather than the obvious padding costume makers prefer for muscle. Yet what unsettled people the most was the face. The eyes were closed, the skin wrinkled and gray, stretched tight across a shape that looked almost human, indicating that there was something deeply wrong about it, not monstrous, but familiar. Whether it is real or not, the video refuses to fade, sitting in the back of the minds of skeptics, challenging the idea that nothing unknown could ever be found in the woods. Bigfoot noises. Most people who claimed to encounter Bigfoot said the creature's sound was the most terrifying part of the experience. They described vocalizations that did not match any known animal, long and powerful howls that go for miles and sound layered, as if more than one voice was woven into a single call. That was exactly what these hikers heard that day. As they moved through an extremely dense Canadian forest, walking quietly and focused on the trail, strange noises began rising from far off in the trees. At first, the sounds were faint and easy to ignore, blending into the natural noise of the woods. But as they listened more closely, the calls became clearer and far more disturbing. They shifted between deep, rolling howls and sharp, high-pitched screeches, a combination that felt unnatural and wrong. Additionally, the howls did not sound like wolves, bears, or any animal they recognized from the region, since there was a weight behind each call, as if something enormous was forcing air through massive lungs. And here is where it got scarier. The howls carried an odd resonance that seemed to vibrate through the forest, lingering longer than expected before fading away. It felt intentional, not random, like a signal meant to travel great distances, as if a message was being broadcasted. The longer the calls echoed, the more uneasy the hikers became, as the sound felt heavy, as if the forest itself was reacting to it. It did not feel like an animal simply making noise, but like something aware of its power. What stayed with them was not just the volume, but the sense of intelligence behind it. The calls felt deliberate, controlled, and unsettling in a way no familiar animal sound ever had. Yet the evidence keeps popping up. Bald Bigfoot. A strange Bigfoot photo has been circulating online for years, passed from forum to forum without ever having a clear explanation. People who reposted the image said the same thing every time. There was no background, no location, and no record of who took it or why. Some tried to track its origin, searching archives and message boards, but nothing solid ever surfaced. What kept the image alive, though, was the figure itself. In the distance, a brownish humanoid shape stands partially obscured, yet impossible to ignore. It appears broad across the shoulders, with a lean but heavily muscled frame that looks like it's built for strength rather than speed. Then there's the hair on its body that grows darker around the chest, midsection, and face, forming uneven patches that do not look staged or uniform. But what disturbs many viewers is the head. It looks completely bald, smooth and bare, with no visible hair at all, which feels wrong for something believed to live deep in the wild. Some point out that Bigfoot sightings vary widely, depending on region and distance, and that no two descriptions were ever the same. Even so, one detail stands out. The arms of the creature hang far too low, stretched well past where human arms should fall, giving the figure an unbalanced, unnatural look. Additionally, the body also appears unusually tall, towering over its surroundings despite the distance. Because of the angle and the lack of reference points, no one could measure it for sure. Still, estimates place it somewhere between 7 and 9 feet tall. To date, the photo remains unresolved, quiet and distant, yet deeply unsettling in its silence. And as much as skeptics will argue that the photo doesn't contain much, perhaps the next footage will be more convincing. Josh Highcliff's footage. On October 24, 2013, about 9 miles west of Tunica, Mississippi, Josh captured what he claimed was one of the clearest Bigfoot footage he had ever recorded.
When this footage first came online, the community was abuzz because it looked like very, very promising footage. The activity that the animal was engaged in looked very normal, as tearing apart some sort of dead stump, presumably looking for termites or some other food source. The habitat was appropriate for a skunk ape.
When experts reviewed the clip, they noted that the creature appeared to be sitting in a swampy patch of land, snapping branches from a tree while Josh filmed from higher ground. But the calm moment didn't last long. As Josh continued watching, the figure suddenly rose to its full height, revealing a massive, towering silhouette that was far larger than he expected. The sight of the creature's true size made Josh scared. Realizing how close he was to it, Josh panicked and bolted, hoping desperately that the creature hadn't seen him, or worse, decided to come after him. But while the creature here was being watched without it knowing, the roles were reversed in the next one, Justina Folger's footage. In 2009, Justina Folger and her friend were having their moment near the creek as the friend filmed. They were at the Poland-Slovakia border, and the guy filming seemed a little nervous. At first, they did not even realize what they had seen, but they knew that they had seen something. Whatever it was watching them, and as soon as the girl screamed, the creature disappeared into the trees. The video was shaky, but back then, cameras did not have the modern-day stabilization capabilities. When the video went viral, some claimed that the cameraman was too shaky, like a guy overdoing his part to sell a hoax. However, others believed that the shakiness was due to the adrenaline the guy was doped in after seeing something that he could not comprehend what it was. Although nobody ever stepped up to claim the footage as their own, the remoteness of the scene and the probability that there were no native primates in the region had people pretty convinced. And while these two managed to be on the other side of the creature, the next camper wasn't so lucky. Bigfoot attacks camper's tent. A while back, a video was released to the public that left the whole world shocked. The video showed a camping enthusiast who had set up a campsite deep within the woods on his property. The exact location of this encounter remains unknown, but he resides somewhere in the northern United States. But things were about to turn ugly, fast. He had installed a trail camera on a tree at the site to monitor the area while he was away. Occasionally, he would retrieve the camera to check the footage, which mostly captured nothing unusual except for the occasional curious deer or other wildlife. However, this time, the footage captured something unexpected. The video showed a massive, dark, Bigfoot-like creature dropping a huge tree branch onto the man's tent. Upon zooming in, the creature appeared to be covered in long, dark hair with broad shoulders and a massive head, significantly larger than a human's. But things got even more interesting. When compared to the tent, which was likely 4 to 5 feet tall, the typical height of a 1 to 2 person camping tent, the creature was taller than it, suggesting that it stood around 8 to 9 feet tall. Upon seeing the clip, many people speculated that the clip was so brief, either because the trail camera ran out of storage or because it only recorded for a few seconds after detecting motion. Regardless, the footage is incredibly captivating. As for why the creature seemed so angry, it's possible that the campsite was unintentionally set up in Bigfoot's territory. Suspecting this, the man moved his campsite to a new location in the woods, hoping to avoid any future encounters with the creature. And the evidence keeps on piling up. Bigfoot hide and seek. This fascinating trail camera footage comes from West Central Alberta, Canada, and was highlighted on January 17, 2024. The camera was originally set up to study wolverines, but it ended up capturing something completely unexpected. The footage first shows a large buck peeking out from behind a tree before retreating. But something else was hiding on the other side. At first, it remained completely still, but once the deer left, the figure moved. It appeared massive, dark, and covered in fur. To estimate its size, consider that the average buck stands around 3 feet tall. Despite being on lower ground, the creature's head was still much higher than the deer's, even while crouching. This suggests that if it stood fully upright, it could be anywhere from 7 to 8 feet tall. Speaking of height, the next footage did not make sense to the cameramen until they consulted experts about what it really was that they saw. Ukrainian Bigfoot. Before this video exploded online, many people still questioned whether the Sasquatch species could be found across multiple continents. But this 2011 clip from Ukraine pushed that idea into a whole new conversation. When the footage first circulated, it showed a large ape-like figure moving through a remote stretch of Ukrainian wilderness. The dark shape clearly walks upright, taking steady steps through the trees. Still, not everyone reacted with excitement. As always, skeptics argued that the figure was nothing more than a bear standing on its hind legs. But researchers quickly countered that explanation. They noted that the creature's stride was far too long and its arm swing far too natural to match any known bear behavior. While it's true that some bears can walk upright for short distances, they don't move with this kind of smooth, deliberate human-like motion. The rhythmic swinging of the arms and the length of the creature's gait stood out immediately. To many, this video became one of the strongest pieces of international Bigfoot evidence, suggesting that whatever this species is, it might not be limited to North America after all, because even in Russia, the creature made an appearance. Bigfoot causes accident in Russia. While Western media rarely acknowledges the possibility of Bigfoot, Russia has shown far more openness to the idea. In December 2018, Russian television aired a strange and unsettling clip claiming that a Bigfoot encounter had actually caused an accident along the Lipkinsky Highway. In the footage, as the people inside the vehicle talk, a thick, black-furred bipedal figure can be seen wandering through the snow nearby. It moves slowly, almost casually, as though observing the car and everyone inside it. Unlike the common belief that Bigfoot avoids any kind of human contact, this creature didn't seem bothered at all. As a matter of fact, it remained pretty close, never approaching too much, but never disappearing either. It stayed within sight for a surprisingly long time, pacing around the area with a calm, almost curious presence, before eventually slipping back into the forest. This was an accidental discovery, just like the next one where a hiker saw something unexpected as he was birdwatching. Hikers clear footage. On April 21, 2013, a hiker enjoying a quiet day of birdwatching near the Tennessee-Georgia border captured something on camera that made absolutely no sense to him. At first, the landscape looked ordinary, nothing out of place, but then he noticed it. This was no bear. The creature stood tall on two legs, its posture upright and balanced, moving with a deliberate, almost human-like rhythm. For someone used to the wilderness, someone who had probably seen every animal the region had to offer, this sight was beyond unusual. It was borderline impossible. As he continued watching, the situation grew even more unsettling. The creature suddenly slipped out of view, vanishing into the foliage and leaving the hiker frozen, unsure where it would appear next. Then, as if nothing had happened, it re-emerged, calmly moving through the clearing, unaware it was being filmed. That's when the hiker captured his clearest shot. When the video made its rounds online, skeptics quickly dismissed it as a hoax. But others pointed out the creature's smooth, natural gait, the fluid arm swing and stride that seemed far too convincing for someone in a costume.